Welcome back to the Holistic Healing with Lori podcast. Hello there, I am Lori Rivers. And in today's episode, we are going to be talking about peptides to help out in healing from chronic illness. So we have actually started using these in my HEAL program, HEAL Advanced Recovery Program for long hauler syndrome, ME/CFS, any of these complex chronic illnesses. Now, let's talk about what peptides are, and then I'm going to explain to you why they're so important on your healing journey to heal from MCAS, from histamine issues, from chronic fatigue syndrome, from all these different things. They're incredible, and I'm totally geeking out about them. So I hope you're excited as well. So a peptide is a chain of amino acids that's less than 50 amino acids. If you are doing more than 50 amino acids in this chain, then it becomes a protein. The difference between a peptide and a protein is that a peptide in the body, and these are naturally occurring in the body, a peptide in the body actually signals different parts of the body to do different things. Let's say, for example, there's a peptide called BPC-157. This is body protection compound, is what BPC is short for. And this peptide in the body, again, it's naturally occurring. It's actually naturally occurring in your GI tract. And what this peptide does is it signals to the body, hey, you need to do some healing. Now, how do you think that could be helpful with a chronic illness, right? So it's very protective of the body. It works to heal every single part of the body, right? It's systemic. So we're talking brain, we're talking muscle, we're talking organs, everything. So one of the main ways that we use these peptides, and by the way, most peptides are not FDA approved. So you have to go into this treating yourself as a research participant, right? So this is all for research purposes. And what I'm sharing with you is all for informational and educational purposes only. This is not diagnosis. This is not treatment. It's not any medical information. So let's get back to this. The way that we use these peptides is to strengthen the body and to reduce inflammation. So we just talked about BPC-157, which is healing. And then there's another that we start some people with even before BPC-157, which is called KPV. And this one is amazing at reducing inflammation. So a lot of times people who have MCAS, who have just a lot of inflammation, that's where we'll start with that KPV. And then start to add in these other ones. Another thing that we find for most people who are dealing with chronic symptoms is that the immune system is out of balance. So we just talked about inflammation. And one of the reasons that there's so much inflammation in the body in these chronic conditions, and this includes even just things like allergies, right? Really, any chronic condition, you're dealing with inflammation. So back to the immune system. The immune system, when it's working properly, is balanced between Th1 and Th2 and Th17 are both on this side. Now, the Th2 and Th17 are inflammatory, basically. So they are important. That inflammation is important in healing, but only in the beginning. And then the body is supposed to move from that inflammation into the more balanced state, right? And to take that inflammation down. But in these chronic conditions, that inflammation keeps happening. So that T2, T17 is raised which means that the T1 goes down. Now, why is the TH1 important? Because that's the thing that kills the pathogens. That's the thing that kills the parasites. That's the thing that kills off the viruses, the bacteria. So you can see that we've got a lot of inflammation here with the Th2, Th17, and very little killing action going on. Now, there are also other considerations that the immune system just gets tired. It's been overworked, right? So for this imbalance, we have two great options. One is called thymosin alpha 1. There's also a version of it that's called thymogen alpha 1. And then there's also TB500 / TB4 frag. Okay, so both of those work in similar ways. And what both of those do is they bring that immune system into balance so that the T1 is coming back up, and so that the Th2 and Th17 are going down, so the inflammation is going down, right? So we're addressing inflammation in several ways. The TB500 / TB4 frag can also, well, actually, it does also do a lot of healing, in addition to the BPC 157. So those are some of the ones that we like to start with. Another one that's one of my favorites is called lorazepam. And what this does for any of you who are dealing with gut issues, if you have SIBO, if you're dealing with celiac, any gut issues, and really, we do this in the advanced program, in the advanced heal program, we just use lorazepam, period, to begin with. Because again, if you're dealing with chronic symptoms, then you've got some gut permeability issues. So what the lorazepam does is it comes in and it zips up the tight junctions in the gut and also in the blood-brain barrier, in the brain, and also the liver and gallbladder. Probably some other places as well. But it does this pretty quickly, and it's just beautiful. So these are the places that we start with these peptides. Now, the order that we do them differs from person to person. And once we have these beginning ones in place, and this is also while we are working on drainage, meaning making sure that you can poop, making sure that you can sweat, which I know that not everybody can when you're dealing with chronic symptoms, maybe if you're pretty bad off. And these are main things that we have to work on as well, right? But I think you can see how things like the lorazepam is going to help with being able to get you to the place where you're having regular bowel movements and things like that. Of course, we use supplements to come in and help out with those things as well. With that drainage, we make sure that the liver is functioning, that the gallbladder is functioning properly, because that is always messed up in these chronic conditions as well, right? We got to address all of those. And then we slowly start to bring in the detoxification and the actual taking care of the pathogens. So those are the first part. Now, we don't do this in the Heal Starter program. We don't do peptides because that's a self-led program. And in order to use peptides, you really need to be working with a practitioner who understands them. I'll just go through a couple of the other ones that we start to bring in as well. So brain fog, anybody? Brain fog, anybody? We use two different, well, maybe more, two different ones though that directly address brain fog, and that's called C-Lank, which is calming, and C max, which is more energizing. Now, depending on where you are in your recovery journey, you might not want to go with the C max until later on down the road, because when we introduce more energy into the system, if the body's not able to handle it quite yet, if the nervous system isn't able to handle it quite yet, then we run into some problems, right? So C-Link is generally better for people to start with. There's also another one, oxytocin, and these are all nasal sprays that I'm talking about now. So they go to the brain, right? The other ones that I was talking about are available in oral capsule form, but we do find that a lot of times they work better when they're injected. Another reason that you want to make sure that you're working with a practitioner. So oxytocin, which is, you might know it as the love chemical. It's mothers end up producing a lot of it when they're nursing their babies. And it's more associated usually with women, but it is that warm, fuzzy, safe feeling peptide. So we actually have that. It's very subtle, but it also helps with brain health, helps with sleep, a couple other things that I'm not remembering right now. So we can start to use that. And again, this depends from person to person so much, right? So oxytocin is usually super easy for people. People don't have any side effects or anything, but I have one student currently who is very sensitive to everything, which I work with so many people who are super sensitive. And she did sprays of oxytocin and swelled up, like her face got puffy, her neck got puffy. And I've never heard of that happening before. I've never run into that before. So we said, all right, we got to start at another place for you. That goes to the back of the fridge for a while. Most likely she will get to the place, well, actually, she'll definitely get to the place where she'll be able to use it in the future and it will be super helpful for her. But at this point, it's a no. So this is one of the reasons that it's important to work with a practitioner. Thinking of some of the others, there's another one that we do start to introduce that's called DSIP. That is short for Delta Sleep Inducing Peptide. And this one's only available in injectable form. And the military actually, they use this for their people who are out in the field and can only get 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night. And they need that sleep to be deep, right? So it doesn't help you get to sleep. In order to do that, if you're having problems with that, then there's some other things that we need to take a look at, but it does help you to get deeper sleep when you do sleep. So more healing sleep. So that's helpful for a number of different reasons, which I'm sure you can understand why. Then there are some others that we start to introduce when you're further along your healing path. There's some that do kill off pathogens, but we want to make sure that you have gone through the order that we go through in the heal course, which is a very specific order, because if you do it out of order, then you a lot of times end up going backwards. In other words, you end up making yourself sicker, and or things just end up continuing to come back again and again. So in other words, like you might have treated for Lyme using antibiotics, let's say, for several years, and you got to the place where you were feeling a lot better. And then maybe a year or 2 or 3 down the road, it comes back again. That's because it wasn't done in the right order. There are other things that needed to be taken care of before treating the Lyme. We go into that in the course, and I think I have some other episodes where I talk about that. I actually sometimes do live workshops, and then there's also going to be a little mini course that we're coming out with where you can learn more about all of this and what action steps to take as well. So those are peptides. I'm really excited about them because they're making this journey easier, because it is not an easy journey, y'all, to recover from something like long hauler syndrome, like myalgic encephalomyelitis, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia. These things are not easy. And so anything that can make things easier for the body, easier for us, is important. Now, having said that, again, peptides are not the only thing that are gonna, it's not like you're gonna take a couple of peptides and everything's gonna be done. We need to address the nervous system. We need to address thinking patterns even. We need to address nutrition. We need to address water. We need to address all of these things. So again, we'll be talking more about that. And these are all the things that we do go through in both the Heal Starter program and the advanced program, especially. Again, the starter program, we do not go into the peptides because it's self-led, but in the advanced program, we do go into the peptides because we get to work together. So I hope that all of that is helpful for you. One other thing that I forgot to mention in the beginning is that before you start any peptides, you want to, and really any kind of treatment, you want to make sure that your hormones are optimized and that your minerals are optimized. So I really recommend getting your lab work done before you start with the peptides, before you start these treatments, and making sure that your testosterone, if you're a woman, actually, if you're a woman, your testosterone as well. And if you're a man, your estrogen as well, but man and woman, and especially for a woman, progesterone. Also, your T3 levels are the best one to check for thyroid. And like I said, your minerals also. Hair mineral analysis is helpful. A lot of your blood labs are not going to be super helpful with that. So you'll need to work out how to interpret the labs. A lot of times they'll actually do that for you if you find a lab test for the hair mineral analysis. But we want to make sure that we have those in place first, the hormones and the minerals. What I find sometimes with the minerals, and this is what I experienced actually, was with things like the BPC 157. So what happens sometimes with the BPC 157, with some of these other ones too, is that you might get really super tired when you first start taking them. And the reason for that is that the body is going in and healing a lot of stuff. Now, one of the things that I noticed was I also was having some heart palpitations after I started taking the BPC 157. Now, that's not super unusual for me in the past, but I hadn't experienced it for a while. So I took a look at it and I realized that there was a possibility that my calcium was low. Now, I'm not a big fan of taking calcium supplements unless it is whole bone, right? So, for example, Ancestral Supplements has a good calcium supplement. And so I stopped taking the BPC 157 and I took the calcium for a week, maybe 2 weeks, and restarted the BPC 157 because I knew that the rest of my minerals were pretty much in place. My magnesium was fine, all that other stuff. And I was fine. I was a little bit more tired than usual, but I just slept longer and that was great. So fun with peptides. I hope that y'all are geeking out about it as much as I am. There's a lot of good information out there on the internet. There's a lot of not good information out there on the internet. I highly advise that you, again, work with a practitioner because they're going to know the best places that you can purchase the peptides from as your own research lab rat. And because there are also some companies out there that are not great. If you want to learn more about them, then definitely, and how to use them, then definitely join us in the Heal Advanced program. And otherwise, I'm also speaking at a summit with Dr. Jockers coming up in August that you can learn more about those peptides and even get an ebook that I made up for that to find good sourcing and things like that. So I hope that was helpful and lots of love, and I'll see you on the next episode.